chief of defense staff was on Al Jazeera talking about all this, talking about how the international organizations and NGOs, at some point the military just had to say, nah, it's either you come with us, you choose our side, or you don't get involved at all. But of course, you know, because why go to them directly? They would say, oh, we're carrying trucks of food and all that stuff to take to people like terrorists. Like,
Yeah.
how does this even make sense? And then they will say the truck stopped on the road or something happened, and then 3 days
Got
later they'll
hijacked.
go back to pick up the truck. I want to say it outrightly that we have, you know, a bit of information here and there, pieces put together here and there, and we're not saying everything that we'll say from this point on is fact, yeah, but we would like to
And put a disclaimer. You should wear disclaimer
I
shirt.
beg you, hypothetical and allegedly, you I beg
Come on, I give
you.
you.
Wallahi, well, it's about, I forgot the name. I think it was Kennedy actually. That was reporting where some of the USAID money was going to, and in that rant or in that report, he talked about how they have been funding Al Qaeda, Boko Haram in Nigeria. We are Nigerians, by the way, with the US taxpayers' money. And this, if you know what Boko Haram has done to Nigeria for the last 15 years or more, if you know how they've destabilized the economy, how they've destabilized the northern part or the northeastern part of Nigeria, how they've displaced people, how they've created corruption, how many military and paramilitary officers and police officers have died at the hand of these terrorists. To hear that people that we thought were allies with, were our allies, the US, could have been sponsoring them for one reason or the other. How did that make you feel, Ibra?
Yeah. I mean, I saw the video. I feel like, to be honest, I feel like, I don't want to say I'm a conspiracy theorist now, but I do believe that there are like a lot of shady things going on in world politics that maybe for most of us we might not really know about unless you're like inside of the game. Yeah, we are not sure whether this is true or not. You know, we are just discussing based on what the video that's going viral online. But it does make me feel like some of the assumptions that I have are true, in terms of like powerful countries will do anything to stay powerful, regardless of the consequences of some of their actions. I don't think they necessarily care in doing right.
And when you think about what do they benefit from that in terms of control, in terms of keeping Africa down, because look, every African president can sit in front of us and tell us today that Africa will become great once Nigeria wakes up. This is the truth. Because Nigeria is 1/5 of the entire population of Africa. If just think about the people that are living the best quality of life in Europe, probably only about half of Europe, because we've got Eastern Europe, we've got a bunch of European countries that are just so as well. Do you know what I mean? Like even in the US, we have a bunch of their cities that's like the old North America. When you have half or 1/4, 1/5 of the continent doing well, the rest will benefit from that for one way or the other, through migration, through ripple effects or whatever. But when you have Nigeria still sleeping, it would be a very difficult thing for Africa to wake up. So even without looking at what might have been done from the perspective of Nigeria versus US, but more from Africa versus US, it even adds more pain to it if this is true.
I mean, I was seeing a lot of, not a lot, like a video that Very Dark Man made, and he sort of did some little research about the topic, and it was bringing up this video of Goodluck Jonathan.
The level of interference by the Obama's government was very overwhelming. It's not as if I couldn't have won the election even with that. But if, by my own thinking, and also the way some other people look at it, they go outside the normal diplomatic relationship, then it should be mentioned. Sending that person to Nigeria at the eve of election, after Obama even issued a statement directing Nigerians to vote for the next chapter, that tells you something.
Yeah, so Goodluck sort of said like there was a financial campaign that was backed by Obama's administration to sort of make him lose the election because, like you said, that they supported Buhari and stuff. So that was like election interference. So I think if you are adding 1 and 2, he's looking like somehow.
It could be, right?
Yeah, it could be.
And now it's an American security personnel saying, look, we funded Boko Haram. We funded Al-Qaeda. I mean, you might say that this person has the incentive to do so because it's now the Trump regime that has closed down the USAID. And they want to say, look, your taxpayers' money, well, it wasn't going into creating food and whatever. And it's the truth. Like, when you look at the amount of money that the NGOs and funding organizations are sending to Africa for something like, oh, we want to do something with regards to food. We want to do... Nothing changes. This money is definitely being diverted somehow. I used to think it was being diverted into the lifestyle of NGO workers.
That's also true. I think both can be true.
Yeah, it's true. I used to think that was the only one. But now looking at the amount of money being diverted, I think it cannot be just alone, all that. I used to think it was super expensive to bribe senators and politicians and all that stuff to make sure that there's not a lot of investigation into how the money is being spent. But now thinking about it, yeah, it could be that a huge chunk of that money goes to terrorists as well. And I'll say the reason I said this. The Chief of Defense Staff said that Amnesty International used to go they said they wanted to stay neutral. Yeah. So being neutral meant that they won't support the military, they won't be against the Boko Haram, they won't support the Boko Haram as well. But what they were doing was the military would fight the Boko Haram guys, they will get injuries and all that stuff. Amnesty International will go in, treat their wounded people and all that. As if they just want them to... Shouldn't it be that as a terrorist organization, you should be allowed to die off if you get injured from a terrorist act? They go in there to treat and they say they're neutral. This is coming from the current Chief of Defense Staff of Nigeria. And recently, before this news came from the security, I think it was Kennedy Jr., RFK Jr., before these things were coming out of his mouth, we have to check if he's the one, but yeah, before that, the Chief of Defense Staff was on Al Jazeera talking about all this, talking about how the international organizations and NGOs, at some point the military just had to say, nah, it's either you come with us, you choose our side, or you don't get involved at all. But of course, you know, because why go to them directly? They would say, oh, we're carrying trucks of food and all that stuff to take to people like terrorists. Like, how does this even make sense? And then they will say the truck stopped on the road or something happened. And then 3 days later, they'll go back to pick up the truck. Yeah, they'll go back to drive the truck out. Yeah, so empty truck now, because everything in the truck has been taken. It could be weapons, could be anything. So they use these NGOs and all these aids and all that stuff to destabilize African countries. And now it's making more sense. At first, I thought it was like a soft control. When the leader of USAID said you don't control the world by military power only, I thought it was soft control. I thought it was if you give them money, if you give them fish, they won't learn how to fish. But I think we're learning how to fish fine. A lot of us are studying all over the world and all that stuff. We're learning how to fish fine. The vested interest, it's not even soft, it's direct. Yeah, if you don't secretly supply weapons to the agencies against their democracy, against their national development, if you don't secretly supply weapons, if you don't secretly fund media campaigns, then you won't be in control.